Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever looked at a car and thought, did this escape from a cartoon, or was it engineered by a man who once tried to grill cheese with a clothes iron? Well, fasten your seatbelts, all three of them, because today we're taking a joyride through history in the 1956 Avolette Record Deluxe. A car so rare, so quirky, and so French, it probably came with a baguette and a shrug. But before we pop the Cyclops eye and fire up the 250cc washing machine-powered beast, a huge thank you to the wonderful sponsors of this channel. Yes, you, all the subscribers who clicked join and decided for reasons unknown to medical science that this content was worth actual money. Your support means Timmy can keep buying rare spark plugs on eBay at 3 a.m. swearing each time, this one will finally fit. Our story kicks off in 1954. When German engineer Egon Brutsch, promoter of ultralight, fiberglass-bodied microcars, brought his Brutsch 200 prototype to the Paris Auto Salon. Among the impressed was Jean Avolette, head of France's Société Air Tourist. Yes, the same folks who imported Cessna planes. Avolette snatched the French license and began producing a localized version of the Brutsch 200, christening it the Brutsch Avolette. Très chic. By 1955, the Paris show car arrived, wearing both Brutsch chrome and an Avolette sticker, like a teenager trying to wear both a leather jacket and a scout badge. Underneath, it was still the same T-tube frame and minimalist setup, but Avolette was not content with mere cloning. By the 1956 Paris Salon, the French had dropped the German name and introduced the rebranded L'Avolette, now boasting a Cyclops headlight, aluminium detailing, vertical air intakes, a proper windshield, and enough personality to make a Vespa blush. The company offered 5 different models, from the humble Normale with 125cc to the Tourisme Deluxe with 200cc. But sitting proudly at the top of this bizarre pyramid was the Record Deluxe, fitted with a 250cc Micro engine and twin rear wheels for speed, stability, and street cred among people who measure horsepower in dozens. Production took place not in a factory, but in a hangar at Toussus-le-Noble, a former military airfield outside Paris. A journalist visiting at the time described a large hangar filled with vehicles in various states of assembly, which, if you've ever seen Timmy's garage, sounds about right. Only around 30 units of the most powerful variant, the Record Deluxe, were made between late 1956 and mid-1957. Today, just one example is confirmed to survive. That's fewer than the number of classic car owners who resist telling you how much their car has appreciated in value. So what made the Avolette Record Deluxe tick? A 250cc single-cylinder, 2-stroke Micro engine famously used in the Microletta scooter. It produced a mighty 14 horsepower. I know, that's about the same as Timmy's blender, but consider this, it only had to push 205 kilograms. 452 pounds. The engine sat at the rear, and thanks to the 2-stroke's clever reversing capability, this car boasted not just 4 forward gears, but 4 reverse ones too, which means you could theoretically back into a parking spot faster than most people drive forward. The transmission was classic microcar minimalism, rear drive 4x4 if you count directions, not axles. The frame was a tubular steel structure beefed up with D-shaped hoops around the cockpit, joined to form a semi-rigid cage. Of course, calling it a cage was optimistic. Most owners felt safer wearing a thick overcoat. Steering was handled via Bowden cable system, a sort of flexible shaft not unlike a bicycle brake cable. Light, clever, and just precise enough to make Bob think it was alien tech. Suspension came courtesy of Neidhart rubber intorsion units up front and Neiman rubber loops at the rear. It didn't so much ride the road as politely suggest it wanted to stay upright. And those wheels? There were 4 of them, but the 2 rear ones sat so close together they practically touched. That allowed the Avolette to qualify as a 3-wheeler for legal purposes while handling more like a 4-wheeled car. Kind of like sneaking a second carry-on bag past airline staff by duct taping it to the first one. Dimensions? She measured 7 feet 10 inches long, 2,400 millimeters, and 4 feet 5 inches wide, 1,350 millimeters, and weighed in at just 452 pounds, 205 kilograms. Top speed? around 68 miles per hour, 110 kilometers per hour, which is impressive until you realize there was no crash testing, no airbags, and the crumple zone was your knees. Fuel economy? Let's just say if you put a gallon in, it'd go farther than most people's promises during election season. While official consumption figures are missing, similar vehicles sipped around 50 to 70 miles per gallon, 4 to 6 liters per 100 kilometers. Let's talk about the look. The Record Deluxe had the design confidence of a French artist on espresso and deadline. That single headlight dead center on the hood? Not a mistake. It was sculpted into the body as a statement. Yes, I have one eye. The car seemed to say, deal with it. The aluminium cast trim around the fenders gleamed like a jukebox's teeth, and the big black rubber strip that joined the fiberglass top and bottom halves gave it a sort of belt, like the car was wearing high-waisted pants. The windshield? Finally, something a tall person didn't have to duck under, chrome-framed, glass, and nearly dignified. The rear intakes added a sporty flourish, and the near-touching rear wheels looked like the engineers couldn't decide between a trike and a go-kart, so they built both. Inside, there wasn't much, but that was the point. Simple dash, 2 seats, some controls, and you were off. No radio, no seat recline, no cup holders. It was the kind of setup that makes Timmy say, finally a car that doesn't nag me with low tire pressure every 5 minutes. In the 1950s, France was recovering. Scooters were everywhere, and cars were expensive. That left a gap. The voiturette class, tiny cars for people who needed a roof, not a license. The Avolette was perfectly placed in this ladder of mobility. The Normal model required no license. The Tourisme added comforts. The Record Deluxe, however, was the rebel, built for speed, for those who dared to go 68 miles per hour without a clutch pedal or, arguably, a sense of self-preservation. Competitors? Think Messerschmitt KR200, BMW Isetta, and the Heinkel cabine. But where they leaned into mass production and practicality, the Avolette leaned into quirk, charm, and untraceable spare parts. Today, most people have never heard of it. Bob thought it was a Cold War drone. Timmy swears he saw one in a dream after eating gas station sushi. Say what you want about the Avolette Record Deluxe, but it packed more engineering per square inch than most modern SUVs. It was light, nimble, weird, and let's be honest, adorable. The only known surviving example, restored in bright orange glory, sold at the R.M. Sotheby's Bruce Weiner Microcar Museum auction in 2013 for $74,750. That's right, folks, nearly $75,000 for a vehicle that weighs less than a vending machine. Back in 1956, a base model Avolette cost 239,500 French francs, roughly 7,000 to 9,000 euros today. But that's probably for the entry model, not the Record Deluxe. As for current market value, good luck finding one. Now don't forget to hit that subscribe button, or Timmy might try to build an Avolette out of plywood and a moped. Stay curious, stay weird, and remember, if your neighbor says his car goes faster in reverse, make sure he's not driving a 2-stroke microcar.